This is sitting over my desk for a reason. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Just another struggling writer. The beleaguered author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. Well, y'all, today is the start of another writing vlog, but not just any writing vlog, a writing vlog in which I am really starting to feel the pressure. The pressure of my deadline coming up in just 3 weeks. The pressure of my deadline coming up in just 3 weeks and still having, 57,000 words left to write. The pressure of my deadline coming up in 3 weeks and having 57,000 words left to write at one of the busiest times of the year. I'm not panicking. Who said I was panicking? I didn't say it was panicking. I am, though, panicking just a little bit. Fortunately, I am a tenacious little bitch, and I am not about to give up on that deadline just yet. In fact, I am doubling down on the deadline. If you watched last week's vlog, you know that I discovered the power of carving out specific time every single day to do your writing, as well as a dedicated writing space, but also making writing your entire personality if necessary. And that's kind of where I'm at, folks. I have a cat who is literally so upset that I kicked her out of the room for laying on my desk when I was just about to get started that she is now like throwing her body against the door. So here's the skinny. According to Dabble, I need to write 2,700 words every single day for the next 3 weeks in order to hit my deadline. Now, I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing what is essentially my 12-week challenge on steroids. Basically, I have to double the output of what I was doing during the 12-week challenge, which was, as you may recall, 10,000 words a week. I need to be writing 20,000 words a week. And yes, I know I did say 57, so that's not an even amount, but let's all be real here. Writers overwrite, and it's possible that I'll go over my word count. So I'm calling it 60K just because it's easier for my brain to digest. As you may recall, in my 12-week challenge, I was writing 10,000 words a week, 1,000 words Monday through Friday, and then 2,500 words on both Saturday and Sunday. Therefore, doubling that would mean 2,000 words every single day, Monday through Friday, and 5,000 words on both Saturday and Sunday. That's going to be tough. I do have a child who has a birthday and would like to celebrate that birthday this weekend. I also have another child who is performing in her school play the weekend after that. And I do have schoolwork that begrudgingly needs to be done. So all of that to say, I'm up against it. But again, I'm not throwing it in just yet. I think this could be potentially my greatest comeback ever. Or it could be the greatest delusion of all time. But as we all know from my 5-year plan video, I am no stranger to delusion. So it is just after 9 o'clock as predicted. Starting at exactly 9 p.m. is going to be rough with the kids in the house just because while their bedtime is 9 o'clock, they're not always in bed at exactly 9. And then I did dick around on my phone a little bit. And we're going to talk a little bit later about how I may be deleting Twitter really, really soon because it has just reached a point that it is no longer sparking joy. But I also want to survive the Taylor Swift documentary release. But how much joy could it really bring me? I said I was going to talk about that later, so we'll talk about that later. So it is almost 9:30, in fact. So I am getting started a little bit late on these reverse ladder sprints, but I am to the point now where I just need to get it done. Oh, that's why it is on a timer. But I'm to the point now where I'm 3 weeks out from a deadline. I've got 60,000 words left to write. I can give up an extra half hour of sleep if I need to. So that's likely what we will be doing tonight. So I'm not going to dilly-dally any further. I'm going to find myself some ambient music to listen to. I'm going to review the last little bit that I wrote just to get myself back into it. It has been like 3 days since I've written anything. I've got myself fuel. I've got myself more fuel. Oh, the smell of that was phenomenal. I've got the warmest sweatshirt that I own, and forgive me ahead of time. Now that it's getting truly cold in Texas, you're probably going to see this baby a lot. This Torture Pose department sweatshirt is literally the thickest sweatshirt I own. It is so thick. It keeps me so warm. I don't even have my heating pad on yet. So sorry in advance. And sorry to all my other cute outfits that you won't get to see because I'll be wearing this instead. And with that, let's get into the first sprint. I will check in with you guys in a little bit. here we are. 2.5 hours later, it is 12:02 a.m. and I have just wrapped up a complete ladder sprint, although I was very tempted to shave off the 12-minute sprint because I had hit the 2,000 words that I needed for the day before I even got to the 12-minute sprint. But I was in such a flow and I was so close to the end of the scene that I decided to go ahead and finish out the ladder. I ended up with 2,333 words. So that really helps me for tomorrow, for the weekend, I should say. So that really helps me out for this weekend. I say really, it shaves off 300 words, but I will take anything I can get at this point. I wrote almost this entire scene. I'm talking like 2 or 3 sentences before the end. And I really did think about going ahead and finishing it out, but I am a big proponent of finish off on a moment that you know you can continue after taking a break and starting up the next day. I hate when I finish a scene and then the next day I go to sit down for my next session and I cannot get into it because I have to start with a fresh scene. So I think by leaving myself a few sentences to pick back up where I left off, that'll help me get back into the mindset and the flow faster and more easily. So I'm going to leave it. Also, I'm tired as fuck. I want to go to bed. And tomorrow I have a kind of a long day. My daughter has a doctor's appointment and then she has a choir recital in the evening. No rest for the wicked or parents, as the case may be. That was pretty good. Pretty good. I will say that this scene is kind of trash though. I can just feel like a lot of the same nouns being used and a lot of the same turns of phrases, and the fact that I don't know how necessary it really is. It does do a little bit for backstory. I mean, it does a lot for backstory. It really pushes this whole B plot to the forefront, which may be fine. I don't know. Hell, what do I know about writing books? It has led me to conclude that I need one more chapter. One more. I think just one more. And then I can get back on track with the stuff that was in the original outline, and then I kind of know the shape of, even if the context has changed. So I'm going to add one more chapter, just one. And I mean, I'm looking ahead at my outline and I need to add, let's see, 32, I need 42, 32, 33, 34, 35. So I need to buff some of this up, and it will naturally as I go. So I guess I can't really be that mad that I'm adding a whole bunch of shit. Can I? I can. We'll see as I get closer to the end how much I regret this later, but I'm currently sitting at 53% progress through the manuscript based on my current word count projections. Oh, and I hit 60,000 words and I didn't even celebrate. I did that in my second sprint and didn't really even realize it. I was just going and going and going. So I can reward myself, which I almost certainly will be doing. I really, really, really want a red velvet bundt cake, especially since my son told me this year he doesn't want a bundt cake for his birthday. He wants a cookie cake, which I am very much less excited about. A little selfish reward to myself for getting this far. And on that note, I am now going to reward myself by going to bed because I do unfortunately need to be getting up at 6:30. Monday. Now Mondays are always successful for me. I always feel super energized at the beginning of a week, as I feel probably most of us are. I'll take it. I'll take any forward momentum I can get right now. So on that note, see you tomorrow. Hey y'all. It is actually now Wednesday afternoon, and yesterday was not a writing day because my daughter ended up getting really, really sick. We went to her solo recital for choir where she was performing, and I would just like to say, and nobody cares about this but me, but it's my channel, so I would just like to say that knowing how she was feeling, and especially knowing what came after that performance, I could not be more proud of my child, because we've done several of these solo recitals over the last 3 years, and her performance last night was the strongest I think I've ever seen her. She was so confident. She didn't forget any words. She didn't stumble. She wasn't really nervous. Her voice was very strong and very clear. It was such a good performance, and I don't share my children's faces on the internet, but if I did, I would be showing you the video we took last night of her performance, because it was just so incredible, especially knowing that she hasn't been feeling well. What she has is just a really, really, really bad cough right now, to the point where like her chest and her stomach and her head and her ears are hurting because of how much she's coughing. And so after we got home from the recital, she was just miserable, coughing almost to the point of throwing up. And like, it was almost triggering like panic attacks because she was just like crying and just so upset of how she was coughing every 10 to 15 seconds. I just spent my whole evening with her. She even slept in here with me last night. She spent the night in the recliner so she could at least get somewhat upright, because when she tried to go to bed at her regular bedtime in her bed, I could hear her from downstairs. She was just up there coughing and coughing and coughing and coughing until she came downstairs in tears. I just spent my whole evening doing whatever I could to help her feel better. And we are staying home together today just so I can make sure that she is getting all the water and nutrition she needs, and hopefully gets as much rest as possible because she's got another performance tomorrow. We're just hanging out. She's going to come back in here in a little bit and hang out while I get some work done, because I did not write yesterday. I would like to try and make up those words now. I'm going to try and get full ladder sprint in before my other children come home from school. It is now 1:15, so that will give me just enough time to get a ladder sprint done. So with that, let's just get into it. Okay, y'all, low-key, it is like 4 hours later. I will admit that between the 48 and the 36-minute sprint, I did take like an hour break to make and eat some lunch. And also my partner came home and we talked a little bit. And anyway, so it is 5:30. I just finished the 12-minute sprint and completed the ladder. I ended up with 1,960 words for the total ladder, so pretty good. I did struggle a little bit. I didn't really choreograph the information I wanted to reveal during the scene, just kind of muddling my way through. And I had an interesting thought while I was writing. It was that I hate this scene. I hate the scene before it. I just don't like it. It doesn't fit. I don't want it. It's making the B plot, which is about Arceli's mother who went missing 10 years prior to the start of the story. And it's just about it's about her. And I was starting to feel like I was making the mom too much a part of the story. And I was to the point where I'm like, I'm going to cut all this. I'm going to make this, I'm going to deliver the information that Arceli needs to get to the next plot point in a different way in the next draft. I'm not going to rewrite the last 4,000 words. I'm not that foolish. But then I thought about it some more, and I don't know. I don't know that I hate it, actually. In fact, I think it might be a good idea to leave it like this, because this B plot was originally the A plot. Right? It was very, very important. And then I made it more of like a running thread that's supposed to be something that haunts Arceli throughout a big portion of the series, not just this book. So I'm of two minds. So you should be introducing something that is very, very central to the main character in a plot forward way. And it is linked to the A plot. So there is that. But also I'm like, should I be going this hard on it if it is supposed to drag out for a big portion of the series? And where I landed is that I think it's probably actually a good thing. I think I had gone too far in the opposite direction in draft one, where this B plot was almost entirely absent. And that's not the fault of the B plot. It's entirely because when I write a first draft, I am like so laser focused on just getting the A plot on paper that I forego description, I forego backstory, I forego like character arcs. I am just A plot centric. On the other hand, I don't want to go to the other side of the spectrum, or maybe it's fine and the third draft will be the Goldilocks draft. I'm kind of on the back to the side of liking it again. It's definitely very rough. It definitely needs to be refined. Definitely first draft quality, because this obviously did not exist in the first draft. I don't know. I'm kind of liking it again. But I will say I am still really, really ready to get out of this and back into the portion that I had originally. I'm ready to get back to the A plot, I guess, basically, because I've been focused on this will be the third chapter in a row where this has been kind of the focus. So I'm ready to get back to the A plot, and I'm really ready to get back to the portion of the story that I'm familiar with that existed in draft 1, and to get rolling again with the A plot. It's interesting, and it's forcing me to think a lot more about backstory I had not considered at all, because it originally wasn't going to be that important. So again, this is probably going to look really, really, really different in draft 3, but I am to the point, I have talked myself into thinking that it's a good thing that it's here. Like I said, it is just after 5:30. Everyone is home now. I'm going to start dinner and kind of relax a little bit on the couch. I do intend on coming back and doing another ladder sprint at my regular 9 o'clock slot, because like, I ain't got time. I gotta get back out ahead of this. So this sprint, I didn't quite get 2,000 words, 40 words short, but I was over 300 on Monday. So if I can get 2,000 in my second ladder, then I'll be back to where I need to be. My current total is 63,304. So I am cruising now. And it's all thanks to these little ladder sprints. So I'm going to take a break. I'm going to make dinner. I'm going to hang out on my couch. I'm going to watch some basketball. I'm going to do some cross stitching. I may play some Pokemon. And I will see you back here in 3.5 hours.
If there's a mountain to climb, well, I'm going to climb it. And if there's a road to walk, well, baby, I'm going to walk it. 'Cause I want to know your horn. And I wanna see your worlds, and I wanna hold your hearts, baby. I wanna feel your words.
Well, fancy seeing you here again. Well, y'all, it is just after 9 o'clock, which means it is time to tackle my next ladder sprint. But I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I am pretty fucking tired. I am really tired, in fact. Honestly, I didn't sleep great, obviously. I had my daughter in here in the bedroom with me. Every time she coughed, I would wake up and, be monitoring her. I did go back to sleep after I did the school run this morning, but I am still pretty wiped. How do I rate my chances of completing a ladder? 60-40 in favor, but I also would not at all be surprised where I get halfway done and I tap out. I did briefly consider doing a half ladder sprint where I just half the times, start with a 24, then go down to an 18, 12, 6. That would be an hour. But I want to at least give it a good faith effort to try and do a complete ladder and get my 2,000 words for today done. That's what I'm going to do. I also have a headache. I've had a headache all day, I feel like. So there's that working against me as well. But like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and try regardless, because this is what I do. And to that point, I was kind of thinking about it today about how I got a little tiny taste of kind of what it would be like to be working as a writer full time. Obviously today was not what a working day would be if I was a writer, because I was caring for my daughter. But I was able to take care of the house and get some writing done and, be a parent. And it was just a good reminder of why I'm doing this, of why I'm pushing myself this hard, because this is part of the 5-year plan, isn't it? To work hard and get my book written and hopefully get it to a point where I can sell it and become a full-time writer. And that's the ultimate goal. So it is with that in mind that I'm going to give it at least my best effort. And if my best effort falls short, then I can at least go to bed knowing that I did my best. So with that, let's just go ahead and get started. All right, y'all. I'm packing it in. I managed 148-minute sprint, which yielded me an additional 868 words, bringing my total up for the day to 2,828. And my total for the manuscript, 64,170. Unfortunately, I didn't get the 4,000. Not even close. This is going to put me behind a little bit. My head is really, really hurting, and I'm really, really tired, and I really need to go to sleep. I am almost all the way through this scene. I probably have 500 more words. I feel like I always say that, and then it never turns out to be true. Not much more to go in this scene, so I'll finish that tomorrow, and then I will be back into the part of the draft that existed before. And yes, I'll have to redraft probably a lot of it because so much of the context has changed. I'll be on familiar territory. I won't feel as much like I'm pulling things out of my ass. I am back to thinking that I don't know how much use any of this is. It's just another heavy reveal scene where she's reading, Arceli is reading something and getting a lot of information, but it's just that's not interesting. And it's the second time I've done this. And saying that out loud makes me think that that's really what I need to fix, is the fact that I have delivered information to her in almost an identical way, where she is reading something. The first one makes complete sense why she would read it. It's basically the dossier on the antagonist. So that's how she learns about the antagonist. Although I guess that's not the most interesting way to learn about the antagonist, is it? But it's really just backstory. Anyway, these are all questions and things I'm going to have to address in draft 3. But yeah, I'm just sort of thinking again, like, this is just so much that we don't need. There's one good part in it that is useful because it addresses the A plot and the B plot and the C plot. It's like packaged around just a lot of stuff that I don't need. But like, if I make the mom plot a much bigger like focus of this book, then it will make sense. But the question is, do I want to? Maybe I do. Maybe the A plot and what I had of the B plot going into this wasn't enough. This is what I need critique partners for, but I don't want to get a critique partner until I at least finish this draft. I had planned on waiting until I was done with draft 3 even, but maybe I will try and get some once I'm done with this draft. If you're interested, hit me up. I'm done. It's almost 11 o'clock and I don't feel up to staying awake any longer. So not a totally unsuccessful day. I made up yesterday's words and I got a chunk of today's words. So I am definitely ahead of where I was this morning. So I'm glad that I sat down and I tried for another round, even if it didn't go all the way. All right, I'm done. I'll talk to you later. Hey y'all, it is now Thursday evening and I'm going to be pretty brief tonight. I have had just a kind of random, really high anxiety day. I'm pretty sure it was all because of this clinical trial appointment that I had today, in which I was really hoping that they were going to cut me loose from the trial. And I've kind of completed the main portion of it, and the remainder is just maintenance. And I have been really stressed about it. I've been ready to be cut loose for a while now. I knew that I was stressed about that, but for some reason, my anxiety was just on 1 today, all the way up to 11. Like literally from the moment I got out of bed, every single decision that I made and every action that I took, I felt like I was completely under duress, like I had a gun to my head. Like even just picking out what I was wearing and walking into work and all of that, I truly felt so highly strung. It just made my whole day kind of tough to get through. All of my will kind of evaporated, especially after I got to the clinical trial and they told me that they're not going to cut me loose. I tried to convince them. I said, I really don't want to do it anymore. And then they kind of guilt tripped me into staying. Oh, what can I do to convince you? This is the most important part. So I'm going to be on it for at least another year. So I'm really excited about that. I came home and because of my high anxiety, I have been kind of fixating on some of the issues I've been having with this draft. Largely, this middle portion has really thrown me for a loop. All of the changes I've been making have really made me feel like I'm on unsteady or unfamiliar ground with this manuscript. I kind of wanted to take a step back from the actual draft, the actual drafting part of things, and just look at it from a higher level to kind of find my way back to where I was. Even though in my outline I was getting there, I felt like I needed to see how it all fit together from a higher level view. So this evening what I did was I sat down on the couch with my notebook and kind of wrote out some notes about what I think of in terms of my A and B and C plots and how important they are and what elements they include. And my goal was to kind of map out each plot individually and then together as a sort of skeleton outline. I didn't get that far because what I did instead was I started to get the sense that has been kind of niggling at me for a while now that I have just too many subplots in this book. And I think that's part of what is contributing to making the front half feel so light and the back half feel so heavy, which is all of these subplots are being teased, but none of them are really being brought to the fore in the first half. And then they're all being resolved altogether in the second half. I diverted myself from doing that kind of high level overview and I instead just listed out every single plot, subplot, character arc, theme, everything that I kind of wanted to be in this book. And it was a pretty long list, I think 9 or 10. And it just felt like too much. It felt like every time I would think about, well, I need this too, and I need this, and I need, it just felt like it was contributing to a real lack of cohesion. Even though the plot, I guess you could say, followed a thread, and like you could follow along with the A plot especially. And this was true in the first draft, that it didn't feel very well connected. It very much did feel like, oh, I got a great idea. Let's throw this in here as well. And so with extensive consideration, I have decided that I am going to but lift out a major darling that I have been really, really trying hard to preserve for the last month or two as I have been reshaping this middle part of the book. And what really got me there in the end was I was on Reddit like looking for advice on how many subplots is enough and how many is too many. And someone said that if it doesn't directly contribute to the A plot, then it doesn't need to be there. And I thought about it, and it really doesn't. It really has no impact on the A plot except to serve as like a kind of a gap filler and to physically provide an opportunity for my main character to progress the plot in her own way. But I could easily lift it out and just replace it with like just a really, really quick, oh, well, this is how she spends this day kind of thing, and you wouldn't miss it. There's also another element of that sequence. It's like a 2-chapter sequence that I also felt was making the book a little busy, especially there's just one particular element, I guess you could call it a subplot, maybe a theme, and there was too much of it. And I had been feeling that for a while. And I was trying to preserve this particular one because of its relationship to this darling. And yeah, I have decided that I'm going to lift them out and relegate them to the next book. I do want to still, it's important to include in the long term, but it does not need to be in this book. So I'm going to save it in my pocket for a later book. Almost certainly the next one. I'm a little sad, I'm not gonna lie. I like I said, this has been a major darling, one of the big scenes that has been kind of floating around in my head since the very beginning of this whole journey of plotting this book. But this is sitting over my desk for a reason. Just as a reminder to myself that not everything I love has a purpose, at least not in this book. That is going to save me quite a bit of time and quite a bit of words, probably 6,000, 7,000 words. And it was the very next 2 chapters that I was going to write after I finish this one, which I'm pretty close to being done with. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do like a kind of a little short chapter that I think will do labor in a subplot that is staying. So in that way, I think that it's more useful, and that still moves the character to the point she needs to be to go on that long sequence to the end of the book. Unfortunately, none of this really answered my question of whether the last 2 chapters and scenes that I wrote are actually necessary, but I think part of the reason I was feeling that way was because the second half of the book was starting to feel cluttered again, and by lifting out these next 2 chapters, it gives the previous 2 more room to breathe and makes it feel a little bit more relevant. It kind of ties the last 2 chapters and then like the next sequence of events more seamlessly. You're going to get kicked out of here. And serves as a good reminder to me, at least, that this B plot, this focus of the last 2 chapters is actually probably important. Like I said, I don't know how this is all going to shake out for draft 3. I'm going to get through this draft first, but this was a big decision that has been at the back of my mind for a while and that I've been trying to avoid and trying to convince myself that it was never going to come to pass. But after seeing it written out on paper and kind of talking through it out loud, I think it's the right choice. It is now almost 10:30. I am not going to write real words today. That's not true. I wrote 104 words earlier today. I just happened to glance at the last thing I wrote last night and I had a brainwave and I figured out the next paragraph. That's all. So I did technically write today, just saying, but I'm not going to be doing ladder sprint. My anxiety is still pretty raw right now, and I think I would just like to go to bed. I've got a busy weekend. My son's birthday celebration. His actual birthday is next Tuesday, but he's wanting to celebrate it with his friends this weekend. So I'm going to be the chaperone for that. And I've got some homework that I haven't been able to tackle just because of everything else going on this week. And I'm potentially going to be needing to write 12,000, 15,000 words. But I think this is the right choice. I'm going to sleep on it. I feel pretty secure in what I feel right now, which is that this is the right choice and that it moves me along to the next bit easier, and it eliminates that kind of like, ooh, I'm getting too bogged down, or I'm presenting too much of this one particular theme or subplot over here feeling from the next sequence, which was the only like kind of negative feeling I was having about it. That's it. Tomorrow is Friday. I'm going to make it my goal to try and finish the scene that I'm currently in. If I could finish that on my lunch break, that would be phenomenal. I think there's like maybe 600 words left. I think I probably said 500 yesterday and I wrote 100 today and now it's up to 600. But now that I know that it's like a direct link to the next sequence, I think I need to do a little bit more to connect the two. And then when I get home and I'm doing my ladder, I would like to write that little bridge, that short little bridge scene sequence. And then from there, I will truly be back on track in a way that I could actually borrow some stuff from the previous draft, which would help me a lot. I'm going to stop yapping. I said this would be short and sweet, and it's been 15 minutes. This draft, something I was thinking about today as I keep talking, is that it almost feels like now that my first draft was more like a zero draft, because this has always been true. My first like start to finish drafts are always very, very, very centrally focused on the A plot and nothing else. So it is truly, that phrase that you've probably heard, that your first draft is just telling yourself the story. It is truly that, but only for the A plot for me. It is like all about like progressing through that A plot to the point where I am ignoring descriptions and setting and character arcs and all of that. It is truly just like, what is the A plot? And I tell it to myself. This second draft has felt almost like a discovery draft in that as I'm writing it, I'm realizing, I don't know, I've never discovery written anything because I have outlines, but I kind of imagine it that as I am writing it, I'm getting ideas and ideas upon ideas and revising the original outline, which as a plotter, I think you should be completely open to that possibility and not marry yourself to one vision or one version, because at least for me, I get exponentially more idea when I'm in the weeds of the draft, which is funny that I am such a staunch planner. But anyway, so this draft has kind of felt like one of discovery, where I wrote the first 40,000 words and then I got to this middle point where everything about this middle point has changed. I would say from like the 40% mark up, I'm like at 55% now, with one more change chapter, like 57%. Completely different from anything that I planned on in the outline, which means that draft 3 is going to see some more major revisions as I kind of take all of these ideas that have spawned in the middle of the draft and try to make it feel like it was all linear and natural. But oh well, it is what it is. This will in theory be my first book. Not in theory, this is my first book that I've taken this deep into revisions, because I am counting myself as being in revision. I did finish a draft. So this counts as revision. And this is the farthest I've ever gotten with a book in revision. So I'm figuring out my process as I go, pretty much, is what I'm trying to say. All right, I'm going to get in bed. I'm probably going to turn on some Mythbusters, which I am a millennial woman, and Mythbusters was my comfort show throughout my 20s. And I still watch it today as whenever I'm feeling stressed. So I'm going to turn on some Mythbusters and I am going to drink some water. I'm going to cuddle with the cat so that she'll leave me alone. And I'm going to convince myself not to feel so sad about this darling that is being relegated to a book that may never get written. I'm not going to think about it like that. So I will chat with you guys tomorrow. I'll probably, listen, knowing me, I'll probably like wake up and have a zillion more thoughts to share with you. And so you'll probably get a car update.
Adam Savage. I reject your alley and substitute my own. And Jamie Heineman.
Hey everyone, it is Saturday evening, and guess where we are? No, It's not my bedroom, even though it may look like it. This is actually Delulu Town, population me, because despite it being Saturday afternoon, I have not written since we last spoke, and that was on a day where I didn't write very much at all. Meaning that my 20,000 words in 1 week goal is in dire jeopardy, seeing as how I've written just over 5,000 words so far. And yet, despite all that, I still believe that it is theoretically possible that I hit that 20,000 word goal for the week. Now, look, I am not under the illusion that it wouldn't be difficult. It would be. It will be, because I'm going to do it. But there is some cause for optimism. The last time we spoke, I talked a little bit about lifting out a scene that was a major darling for me, something I had really clung onto and hoped to keep as part of the plot progression of the second half of Act 2. And yet, when I really sat down and thought about it, it is one of the few subplots and moments that can be lifted out and not really be missed all of that much. And as a result, it's got to go. It doesn't serve the main plot or the B plot. It's just kind of a cool moment that provides some interesting information to the main character and some backstory for a side character, but nothing that is really necessary in the moment. And as such, it's got to come out. And while I'm still pretty bummed about it, the plus side is that with it coming out, I can eliminate not just one, but 2 chapters. Now, in its place, I'm going to have to put in a kind of transitory chapter that should be about 2,000 words, but those 2 chapters that are coming out were probably going to be around 6,000 words. So I'm saving some time there while also streamlining this second part of Act 2. I am continuing to let my main character take the lead on things, which was not true in the previous draft. And I'm also downsizing a subplot or theme that had started to feel really, really crowded and like it was just way too much. And I was starting to feel worried that the readers would be like, another thing like this? So by lifting out this couple of chapters and this part of the subplot, it allows those moments to be reintegrated into a sequel and reintroduce that theme in a way that feels more natural and gives the whole thing a chance to breathe. So it is currently just after 6 o'clock. I've just finished eating dinner and taking care of the kids, and I've let them know that I'm going to be in here working probably for the rest of the evening. We're all good there. So it is really truly on me now to just sit here and get the work done. So while I do have a just under 15,000 words to hit that 20,000 word mark, I'm not going to be thinking about today's progress in terms of word count. Instead, I'm going to be at least trying to focus on hitting certain plot checkpoints as a mark of progress. Specifically, I would like to get from where I'm at now all the way up into the second pinch point or the big fight scene. Now, if you recall from my first draft, the fight scene gave me nothing but fits. It took me like literally months. I was going through one of my big slumps, and writing was actually one of the things that was causing my mental slump because I was having such a hard time with it. I was doing this weird thing where in the preamble to the actual like combat starting, I didn't really know how to get into the moment. And so I did this thing that I do when I'm really struggling, where I just start narrating literally every action the main character is taking. She gets out of the car, she walks down the sidewalk, she enters the store, she has this conversation, instead of just saying she goes into the store. That really inflated the word count. It really made that moment feel bloated and unattractive and just made me feel icky to write. I was really struggling with it. The combat itself ended up working out really, really well. And by the time I got to the final combat scene during the climax, I was a lot more comfortable with how this magical combat takes place. For this iteration of this fight scene, there are some similarities, but mostly major differences. The similarities are that the main character arrives where the antagonist has shown up, and there's quite a bit of preamble before the actual combat itself starts. That preamble has changed dramatically in what it does, but once the combat gets started, while the fight scene itself is going to have to be completely rewritten just because of how much the context has changed, like the entire setting has even changed. I hope that I'll feel more comfortable with it now that I've given myself some more experience in writing the combat. But I'm not planning on doing any of that today. I want to get right up until that preamble part where the main character arrives on the scene of where the antagonist is. And that part from where I'm at now now up until that part is maybe like 10% of the whole book. Like it should be quite a lot. There's a lot of character movement. There's a lot of this B plot being explored, a major reveal. I'm hoping that this eats up 10 to 12,000 words, maybe even the whole 15. Again, I don't know how much of that I'll get done tonight, but again, I'm not thinking about it in terms of words. I'm just thinking about like, I want to finish this one scene that I was in on Wednesday. Done, knocked out, completed. Then I want to do this transition scene, and then there's one major scene, probably 3,000 to 4,000 words, and then another transition scene. If I can get all of that done tonight, I'm not really going to care as much about the word count. I'm just going to feel really good. And then tomorrow I can focus on maybe writing that preamble before the fight scene, and then focus on the fight scene itself next week. Because once this fight scene is done, the characters go back to headquarters and kind of have a debrief, and then it's that debrief that kind of triggers the dark night of the soul for my main character, and then from there we're into like the ending of the book. Truly the ending, the climax itself, the final fight scene is not truly going to change that much. So there is cause for optimism that if I get through this period that I've been in, I'm right at the tail end of what is changing in that middle section of the book and get into like more familiar territory, even if I'm rewriting a lot of it because I'm going to have to, the context has just changed so much. But even if I'm copying paragraphs instead of whole like pages, that still will help me get ahead of the word count a little bit more than certainly having to write new scenes from new cloth. Welcome to Delulu Land. Thanks for keeping me company. I hope that I don't disappoint its resident. It is, again, just after 6 o'clock. I'm going to start with one ladder sprint and then I'll check in with you guys and then we'll just see how it goes from there. But yeah, I plan on being here for the next several hours at least. 2 weeks until deadline. Hey y'all, it is now post ladder sprint number 1. It's just after 9 o'clock, actually 9:20. That one was a fairly successful sprint. I did 2,314 words. I start off really strong with a 48-minute sprint that got 1,042 words on its own. Unfortunately, my 36-minute sprint lagged a little bit. I was just having a really hard time figuring out how to proceed. Ended up getting through it, but that one was only 396. The 24 was 551, and then the 12, 325. So pretty successful, I would say. I was hoping to get to 2,500, but it is what it is. Unfortunately, something I kind of thought while I was writing the last couple of paragraphs is, this is just bad. It's just bad stuff. I'm not really super in love with what I'm writing. It just feels a little bit thin in the logic department. This sequence is going to need some rethinking, I think, in draft 3. But again, I am to the point where I'm like, I can't care about that right now. I just need to keep going and to keep trekking forward. I need to get through this draft so bad. I am a little bit concerned about time in the word count. I mean, I am up to the 57% mark, and I think I was pretty close to that in the previous draft. But I think I was closer to like 55%, and I know I'm splitting hairs there, but I'm just worried about being too wordy. But again, it is what it is. So my current total is now 66,588. I'd love to get to 75. No, that's not gonna happen. I would need to hit around 79,000 words in the manuscript to hit 20K. So yeah, 75,000 is actually probably the target I should be going for tonight, because tomorrow I'm going to have homework. I am planning on working on the homework in the creases of my sprints for the rest of the night. And actually, I just looked at it and it's actually not that bad. I don't know why I thought it was a 3 to 4 page paper, but it's actually just like, it's really not that bad. I have to do an activity and then I have to fill out a worksheet essentially about the activity. So it's really not that bad. So I'm going to work on that a little bit tonight in between sprints. But anyway, I still do need to do the groceries and laundry and all kinds of stuff. So Sunday stuff. I need to film a video. I was supposed to film it today, and that didn't happen. All right, I am just kind of talking at this point. So first ladder is now done. Not too shabby in the words department. I'm going to do a second one. That's for sure. I do not think that a third one will be attempted. It might be attempted. It will not be completed. Y'all, this is going to come as a complete surprise to you, but I don't think I'm going to hit that deadline. I just finished my second 48-minute sprint of my second ladder, and I got 878 words. So it's going okay. You know, a little bit of drop off of efficiency since the first sprint, but still okay. But I am just whooped. I'm whooped. I'm tired. I've been sitting at my desk for 3 hours, almost 3 hours. Well, 3 hours since I really sat down and kind of started getting ready. But anyway, and I'm tired. I'm tired. And I was just looking at my total words and how much I would need to meet the deadline. And I am currently, at this very moment, sitting at just over 48,000 words. And I just don't think that that's possible in 2 weeks, as much as I would like to try and pretend that it is. And I do very much want to pretend that it is. You know, it might be if that were the only thing I had to do, if I didn't have a day job that sometimes wore me out, or children that sometimes got sick, or birthdays to plan and attend, and Christmas to go shopping for, and all the other things that come with life. But I do have a job that requires me to spend 45 hours a week at. And I do have a family that I love and has quite a bit of things going on as we wrap up this school term. I also have my own school to attend to, and I have chores I need to make sure get done so that we're not living in squalor. I have a partner who needs attention on occasion, and I have other interests. That's what got me today, the family and the interests. It's just not looking like it's happening. It pains me to admit that, seeing as how I started this week with a very, very bold declaration that I was definitely going to do it. Yeah, I think I just dug myself into too much of a hole, not just this week, but especially this week, with just not writing for 3 days, but also over the course of the last several weeks and months with everything going on. I've just not had it in me. And as much as I would like to say that I do have it in me to make up that ground, there are simply not enough chronological hours in the day to make it work. And that's just, it is what it is. I don't have any plans on how I'm going to revise that deadline. I don't have any plans for how I'm going to revise my targets per day. I'm going to continue to do at least one ladder a day, bearing in mind I've got a big day on Tuesday. My daughter's got a choir concert, and it's also my son's birthday, so we're going to go to the choir concert and then go straight to dinner. And the last time we had to do that, it was a late night. So then Friday is my other child's school play, and then on Saturday, I don't know if I talked about this, but my son decided to postpone his birthday celebration till the next weekend. So we've got my youngest child's school play again, and my son's birthday stuff going on, and then there's Christmas shopping to attend to. Anyway, all of that to say, ladders will be attempted, but I do not know that they will be completed. It is now 10:40. I did 3,000, just over 3,000 words of writing. I guess adding a whole new scene again, which was supposed to be just a transition, but I don't know. I need to really think about it, but I need to really, really consider how important seeing Arceli level up in her magic training is to the reader and to the plot, because it is important to the plot because she does need to know all these things, but how important is it that we see it? On the one hand, it does feel a little bit like narrating her every move, when I could just summarize it by saying she spent a week and she learned the spell, kind of thing. But on the other hand, again, this is the most interesting part of the setting, the magic. I imagine readers would care about seeing how she's progressing and learning it. Maybe, I don't know. This is what I need critique partners for, and beta readers. But I would really like to get a cohesive draft done where that's not improvised halfway through before I start seeking those out. But anyway, it's starting to feel a little bit unwieldy. I really want to get out of this portion and into the portion that moves the plot along. Anyway, it'll be fine. I just have to suck it up and deal with it, and accept that I am at least in part discovery writing this draft. Something that I never thought that I would do. Like I said, I don't really know how to round out this week of writing. I mean, it is Saturday and I do plan on doing some tomorrow, but I've got other things that need to be done as well. Other than to just say, I'm still going to do my best. I'm still going to sit in the chair and do my ladders, which are yielding me about 2,000 words a day. And while that will not be enough to meet my deadline, I think that would be a really good writing habit if I can make it stick. I think setting my sights on that as a secondary goal of this draft and this project, I think that's nothing to be mad about. I'm going to get in bed. I'm going to watch the basketball game. I'm going to drink some water because my head hurts, and I am going to chill for the rest of the night and be happy that I had a 3,000 word day. and I didn't have to sacrifice spending time with my family as much as I originally intended this morning. That's it. See you tomorrow. Well, hey guys, welcome to Sunday evening and the last sprint of this writing vlog. While this week did not turn out the way that I had hoped, and I had to make a pretty tough admission to myself in that I am definitely not going to meet my finish your book fall deadline of December 21st, I am proud of continuing to make writing a priority. I'm proud of continuing to come back to this desk and continue doing my ladder sprints. And I am proud that while I am going to miss the deadline, it isn't actually going to be by a whole heck of a lot. And considering that I took basically like 8 weeks off from writing out of a 12-week span, I think that I've done pretty well for myself. So I've given it some thought since we last spoke about what my new deadline should be. I did briefly consider not giving myself a deadline and just making a consistent word count target every day until I get to the end of the book, but I do work better under pressure, and so I think having a deadline is important. And plus, I'm a planner at heart, and having that hard deadline will help me kind of figure out the rest of my writing plans as we move into the new year. I have given it some thought, and I've taken a look at my word count, and I think if I write 2,000 words a day, which is pretty consistent with these ladder sprints, I've been getting right around there. Sometimes I'm getting a couple hundred words over, but rarely am I hitting a full sprint and not getting at least within 100 words of 2,000. So if I'm writing 2,000 words a day, I need 24 more days of writing every single day to finish this draft. I need just over 48,000. So what I thought I would do is I would give myself 4 weeks from now to finish the draft. That's of course, 28 days, and that will give me a little bit of buffer. I do not think I'm going to be writing much on Tuesday, and I do not think I'm going to be writing much on at least Christmas Eve, probably Christmas, New Year's Eve. So there's going to be some days in there where writing is just not feasible. And so by giving myself 28 days instead of exactly 24, that will give me just a little bit of buffer as I navigate the holidays. With that in mind, my new deadline is now, I forgot it already, January 4th. If I could get it done before the new year ticks over, that would be a nice bonus though. That's pretty much it. It is now 9:24, so I'm a little bit late as usual getting started on these ladders. So I'm going to go ahead and get rolling here. So without further ado, let's see what we can get done tonight. Hey y'all, so I just finished up the 36-minute sprint, and this is going really, really well, and I'll talk about it when I wrap up the whole ladder. But I just got to a part in my first draft that had a really great line in it, but I don't think it's salvageable because of the way the context has changed. In the original draft, the main character's partner, his name is Max, surprises her with some information and takes her on a trip to go explore that information. And in the second draft, it's the other way around. Arceli is the one who seeks out that information and kind of asks him to come with her. This line doesn't really work anymore just because of the way that the roles have switched, but I really love it. And anyway, so I just wanted to read it for you. By the time Tyler, Texas finally appears on the horizon, Arceli is about 15 minutes shy of demanding Max turn the car around and take her back to the city. When he tells her that Laura Gonzalez lives about 10 miles further southwest of Tyler proper, she very seriously considers the possibility that he is fucking with her and has been the entire time, and that her only recourse is to call 911 and report a kidnapping. I wish there was a way to save that, and there still might be. I'm definitely going to hang on to it, but I was just going over some paragraphs that I can borrow from draft 1, and I was like, oh, I wish I could save that, but I don't think that I can, at least not in this configuration. I'm going to go ahead and get started on my 24-minute sprint, and I'll check in with you guys when it's all said and done. Well, y'all, I have just finished up the 24-minute sprint, and I have decided I am not going to do the 12-minute sprint, but I have a good reason. First of all, I have blown past my 2,000 word goal for the day. Completely blown past it, due in large part to the fact that I was able to borrow quite a bit from draft 1 in the progression of this scene. I have a document where I'm saving all of the words that I'm copying over just so I can get an idea. And let's see. Yeah, about 1,000 of those words were borrowed. So my total for the day, I'm going to end out with 2,897. So I did really, really awesome. I was kind of hoping to get to 3,000 on the day, but I'm to a moment that I realize I kind of need to think about how I want to do it. It's a very small moment, but it's impactful. And so I just want to take a moment to think about it. And if I were like earlier in the ladder, I probably would just go to my recliner and think it through. But since I'm at the very end and it is almost midnight, I'm going to call it here for the day. Wow. Just really, really great. I'm really, really proud of myself for doing it and for being able to rework a lot of these words. I was kind of worried that I was going to have to be rewriting all of these scenes because of the change of context, but this one actually ended up working out pretty well. So I don't know how that will pan out as we move into the fight scene, but I'm pretty pleased with today. I'm definitely not thinking about how if I can borrow even like a quarter of the words from the original draft, how that might really help me meet my original deadline. Don't say that. I'm not thinking it. Not at all. The other notable thing that happened is I crossed 70,000 words, and I checked against my original draft, and this moment that I'm in was at 60%, and Dabble is telling me I am at 61%. So I'm still really, really, really following along with the original draft and the beat progression. Obviously, the word count totals have changed, but the percentages are staying pretty much on track, which I'm really happy about. That also means that lifting out those 2 chapters was probably for the best and would have really inflated the second half of this book. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really close to finishing out this scene again. It's kind of a punchy moment, and so I just need like a 2 paragraphs, maybe even 1, to finish out this scene, and then I'm going to go into the next one, which will be really, really reveal heavy and another really, really gut punchy moment. So I'm really excited. I'm getting into the most exciting part of the book, the part where when I'm reading a book, this is the moment where things start to really roll downhill and start moving really, really quickly, and I feel like I can't put it down. That usually happens for me when I'm reading around 65%. That will be right around the time of the fight scene, so I'm hoping that momentum carries me through that moment as well. And I feel like I have said this exact same thing when I was writing draft 1. The deja vu is strong just now. Big milestones hit. Almost 3,000 words on the day in less than 2 hours. Crossed over 70,000 words total, and have gotten kind of back on track with my original outline, or at least the draft 2 outline. And while, yes, I am anticipating a lot of recontextualizing as I move through the last 40,000 words, I'm cautiously optimistic that some of it can be saved. I definitely think that as we get into the climax, a lot of it can be saved. And I'm pretty confident that I'm going to be able to copy over the epilogue word for word, because it is still one of my favorite things that I've ever written. On that note, I am going to get my happy ass in bed. What a week it has been. Let's total up my words for the week, just for funsies. Yep, 11,354. Whew. Dang, I am so proud of myself, considering I only wrote 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the 7 days, which just is a testament to these ladder sprints and the benefit of dedicating time and energy to writing on a consistent basis. Something that is not really groundbreaking, and yet it still took me all this time to learn it anyway. With that, thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe, or consider leaving a comment down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please let me know in the comments if you ever believed for a second that I was going to hit 20,000 words in 1 week. It's okay if you didn't. I mean, truly, it was the delusion of a lifetime. In my next video, I don't have a firm plan yet, but I am going to try and continue this sort of holiday theme that I've got going. So I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then. Bye.
I'm gonna see if there's a sound